What up, y'all? After beating Dying Like the Beast, I just want to provide like some of my final thoughts on the game while I'm a little bit more relaxed after the experience as opposed to right when I ended it. We're pretty much going to talk about a small subsect of things about the game, at least for me. One is performance, the other is going to be visual, the other is going to be audio, story, combat, exploration, and quest design or objectives. Now, I believe each of these areas are important to this specific game. So I just want to kind of just give off my free range thoughts on it as opposed to, having something completely written out. This is all just coming from what I can remember at this current point in time. Let's start with performance. Now, I don't know how exactly I want to structure this, but what I will say is the performance of the game was fine. Like the frame rate was consistent. However, there were other issues that I did experience with the game that I guess you could tackle onto performance because it's more so dealing with logical issues that exist within the game, such as like let's just say quests bugging out or different instances of things where objectives wouldn't be tracked or certain actions that you would perform with the character in terms of the controls, like they would be like unresponsive or they would have high latency to them from when you hit the button to when the action would actually take place. And to me, a lot of those things would fall under the performance category. So I would say, even though the frame rate was consistent, actions that the character would perform, in terms of Cal Crane, who is the main character of the game, or other instances of like, let's just say you do a quest, right? Now, the quest is after you complete that particular sub objective of that quest, it's supposed to advance to the next sub objective, which let's say you gotta kill all of the soldiers that's in the area, and then after you kill all of the soldiers, it's supposed to spawn another wave of soldiers where it then changes your objective from from killing the soldiers to escape the soldiers. And in a lot of cases, the game would kind of wig out and not like not allow you to advance, if that makes sense. So while I will say that the frame rate was consistent, other areas of performance was vastly hit. And for me, that was it, it created micro issues with the game that as I continued to play for my 27 hours in the game, it evolved into big issues when I started to try to do certain things in the game. Let's talk about the visuals. And what I will say about this game is it does look great. It looks incredible on the PS5. I was playing on performance mode, which it still looked good. I will say some of the post-processing effects, such as lens flares and motion blur and things of that particular nature. Like as for the lens flares, I will say playing in HDR mode, it did cause some kind of issues with being able to see certain UI elements, but other than that, the game looks great. From an aesthetic standpoint, it's realism. There was a lot of nice gory bits, a lot of visceral grit and cartilage and all of that, and it all looked good. It all looked good from that standpoint. What I will say is the game was incredibly dark in HDR mode, which also again affected like aspects of the UI, which made it difficult for you to be able to see quest markers, for you to be able to see interactable objects. And another thing that I will say too, and I'm just going to put this in visual as well, a lot of the UI elements like were incredibly small, which makes it difficult for you to be able to see the things that you could interact with or to just track certain things. So I will say, while it does look great, there were instances or elements of visuals that kind of take a hit because of just the darkness of the game, if you will. As for the audio of the game, let's just categorize it as sound design, music, and atmosphere. I think the sound of the game was great. I mean, for the most part, it was a lot of howls, a lot of screams, a lot of yeah. It was a lot of that. In terms of it being directional and giving you like a little bit of an understanding as to where things were coming from, I do think they could have worked on that a little bit. I don't know how their audio engine is like how it works. I'm not even sure which engine they used for this game, but I do think that directional sounds could have been a bit better, just because it made it a little bit difficult to, if you can't see something, track what something is audibly. And outside of that it was cool. It was cool. I'll just say that. In terms of music, because I was playing in streamer mode, I didn't really get hit with the licensed music, but I will say some of the generic soundtracks that they had within the game were pretty good. I did think that there was a quest that you could do. I think it was called Good Vibrations. I think it was the name of it. It's a side quest that you do for this guy after you collect, like, after you do the Deadbeats side quest. He pretty much takes the Kevlar, the wiring, and I forgot what that other thing is, and he combines it together to make like this audio system. And then where you gotta fight against hordes of goddamn going zombies, and then there's this big chimera looking zombie that'll pop up out of nowhere, and you gotta fight against that as well. There's this tune that plays. It sounds like I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world a little bit, not gonna lie, but it's hilarious. They also have like a bunch of I'm just saying generic, just to, or not generic, but let's just say unnamed sound music that hits very hard. Like they had like some hard rock songs in there. They had a little bit of metal songs in there, and it was all good. I think the one that I liked the most was like the soundtrack or the sound bite that they use in terms of music whenever there's like something interesting happening during the main objective or just during the quest line or something. It kind of sounds like it reminded me of Katana Zero. That's what I do remember. It was like down, zero, zero. It kind of sounded like that. It was dope. It was dope. In terms of atmospheric sounds, I think they all work great. I think a lot of those atmospheric sounds, though, they also came from like, you know, the basic sounds like the howls, the screams, and all that, but they kind of meshed it well together with the sounds of the environment, such as like the wind passing, or like the sounds of the streets and all that. I do want to say that I kind of wish that like footsteps of things like creeping up on you was a little bit louder, and like they had direction to them, because I think that would have helped out with the creep factor during like dark segments, especially when you got going to like dark caves. Like if you do the quest line that's for like this one dude where his dad was responsible for like all the people that turned into zombies in like this cave. I think that like, especially for that one, because I think that was where I had most of my visual issues with the game, especially because there were volatiles around, you couldn't see the objective. And then on top of that, the controls of the game was, I just want to say to any developer out there, don't add your interact as well as your use item on the same button. Like, can we not do that, please? I've used so many resources just because those two buttons was mine. I would go to interact with something, and then I would wind up using one of my resources. That was pissing me off the whole entire time while I was playing, not gonna lie. But as I was saying, you had to interact with like one of the wires so that you could hook it up to explosions and all that. But you couldn't really, at least for me, I couldn't really hear where the zombies was walking, and I couldn't see them. So I had to rely on the sensor, the survival sense like ability. That's a whole different can of worms that I'm gonna get into in exploration. But yeah, now the story of the game is a pretty simple one. It carries on from, I believe it's Dying Light 2 Stay Human. I'll be 100% honest here. I haven't beat Dying Light Stay Human. I haven't beaten Dying Light the following either. I've played and beaten Dying Light the original, just haven't beat those two. I do know a little bit about Dying Light 2, and that's because I played a little bit of it. And from my understanding of what the beast is, it's a continuation of the events that took place in Dying Light 2. Because not to spoil anything, some of those characters do come back. Actually, you see one of those characters that was at the very beginning of Dying Light 2, because I do remember the beginning of Dying Light 2, that you meet. Yeah, he's like right there. I didn't remember that was him until the name was mentioned, and I was like, oh, that's that dude. Okay. But pretty much the story is you play as Cal Crane, OG, from Dying Light 1. Apparently he was taken captive and experimented on throughout the entire time he's been gone. And I believe this has taken place for, I believe it was 22 years, because apparently the events that takes place between Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2 is 22 years. So he's been in captivity for roughly 22 years. And in his captivity, experiments done on him. And eventually there's some people who break in. They fail to get him out. Things happen to them. I'll just say things happen to them. And after that, he's finally let out by one of the scientists that was working with the main antagonist of the game, or I don't even want to call him a main antagonist, like the target of the game. Let's just call him that. And in that target, you know, you do all of these things like injecting yourself with the serum that the chimeras have inside them to put into yourself so that you could then take on the big baddie of the game. That's pretty much the story. Now, there are other little tidbits that exist there that I've seen like in other medias, like iZombie, for example. iZombie, there's like a plot line there for like a good stretch of the game for, I want to say, about a good 4 to 8 missions. There's like a nice little iZombie storyline. And outside of that, like for the most part, you're just defeating chimeras, injecting yourself, and then trying to bring people over to your side for the story. Now, there are like little micro things that exist within it, like the character with Florence. I wish they kind of would have delved deeper into her, like why is a Texan all the way in the UK? Like, that's interesting to me, especially after 22 years in a zombie apocalypse. That's an interesting thing to me. They didn't really go that deeper into it. And then a bunch of other things, like you can find like lore bits such as like collectibles that would have some pieces of story within it. It doesn't necessarily paint the full picture, but it'll give you like a little piece to the puzzle that if you get all of it, you could kind of fill it in. But for the most part, the story is God did bad thing to me, therefore I want revenge on bad guy, and I will do anything to get that revenge. I'm gonna resist for a bit, but then I'm gonna be gung-ho after certain thing happens again. You know, that's pretty much the story in a nutshell. It's nothing too grandiose, very simple, something that just gives the player an objective to continue on with the main objective of the game. With that said, combat in this game is I'm kinda in a mixed place with it, because when it works, like it feels fantastic. There are different aspects that you could do. They brought back the drop kick, bro. The drop kick is amazing. I've been using that like crazy. But I will say the beast powers kind of felt underwhelming. And I think it's because I played Dead Island 2. And I don't mean to compare the two games, but Dead Island 2 felt like it did its zombie berserk mode a little bit better than this game did its zombie berserk mode. Because in Dead Island 2, like your health doesn't get depleted when you're in that berserk mode. It's just your berserk meter gets depleted. Whereas here, it's like, well, you can still be hurt even though you're this thing. And then on top of that, it doesn't really last that long. There are actions that you could do that will completely deplete that bar. So for me, what I figured out was I'm best just mashing R2 to just get out those basic attacks rather than doing these big grandiose attacks that will do probably a slither of damage to anything that's not a small enemy. And that was that. You have other options as well, like different skills. You got your different parkour skills like vaulting over, you got the vault kick, you got the charge kick, you have your basic melee attacks, then your charged melee attack. In terms of like crafting and all of that, and I'm gonna add that here, in terms of crafting and all that, it's cool, it's good. I will say this, I used it a lot in the first 5 to 10 hours of the game. I want to say after a while I was just like, I don't really see the point because like a lot of the stuff that you use, like especially the grenades, even when you have the advanced grenade skill, they feel worthless unless you're using it on regular enemies. If you use it on anything bigger than a regular biter, or let's just say a biter or a runner, it don't matter, bro. They're tanking it. That grenade did not exist. It does not follow the laws of reality. You said it go boom, no, it go that's what it do. So, but with all that, I will say that Molotovs, they seemed okay. Not the best, not the worst thing. They seemed okay. And in terms of like crafting or putting charms onto your weapon and all that, a lot of the charm effects and what have you, they didn't really seem valuable. I will also say that gun mechanics, the way that I always looked at it in like the Dying Light series, is gun mechanics are made for humans. Because if you use the gun on a zombie, it's kind of like a waste where you could just melee it to death. You're just wasting ammo. Use it on humans, one shot on a human, one tap him in the head, you're good. But I will say this as well, that shotgun, we need more. Next game, put a Spaz 12. Put a M1014. Put something else in that joint other than a pump action shotty. Give me some variety in the shotgun department. I don't care about the rifles. I don't care about the pistols. I don't care about the revolvers. They're all bunziti in my opinion compared to the shotgun that y'all put in this game. That shotgun is fantastic. It's I will honestly say, especially towards the end of the game, that shotgun gave me life. It took me from an insane place to a sane one. It took me into the realm of reality that let me know that if I have my pump action shorty, I'm putting everybody into a body bag. I loved it, bro. I freaking loved it. I wish there were more. I wish I could have more ammo. The whole convoy system for you to get more ammo, that's cool and all, but it's, I don't know, it felt Ubified to me. It felt very Ubisoft-ish. But I think that's just me, and it's probably because of the different variety of games that I've been playing, but it didn't feel good. That's what I will say. Anytime I thought about it, I was just like, all right, well, if I want more ammo, then I gotta go fight against either human enemies that have guns, or I need to go do a convoy. And the options just felt limited there. Next, let's talk about quest design, because I will say this is easily one of my least favorite things about the game. The quest design in the game, I do think they had a lot of great ideas. I think they thought some very good stuff. I think in the beginning, first probably like 4 main quests, like the ideas were like to the moon. They were perfecto. I think the execution of them, on the other hand, like later on down the line, it started to lose. It started to lose me. Is the best way that I could put it. Because I'm just gonna mention this one quest because it was like the perfect encapsulation of my issues with the game. Right? There's this one quest in the game. I'm not gonna name it, but if you've made it there, you'll know what I'm talking. There's this one part in the game where you go back to town hall. Now, after you go back to town hall, you then the military then starts to shoot around out these canisters that causes zombies to aggro to that area. Now you can either fight those zombies or you can immediately go do the objective, right? Which the objective is to go take out these mortars as well as the soldiers that's around the mortars. Now you go do that, boom. You go take out the soldiers, you go take out the mortars. There's some soldiers that are hitting with like a sniper rifle or a marksman rifle or something like that. They hit you. It does like about half health or a little bit more than half, probably like about 60% of your health. And things like that, right? And then on top of that, you got to destroy these mortar stations. Now, the mortar stations aren't interactable. It's kind of similar to another mission. I believe it's called, it's a sub quest called Killing Streak. There's a whole volume set of it. And the final volume of Killing Streak, you got to destroy the alarms that's there, but they mark that you need to destroy those alarms. And if you hit the alarms once, they destroy. I just want you to keep that in mind. So going back to this whole mortar section. So in the mortar section, when you're there, you see the mortar. There's nothing that highlights the mortar to let you know to destroy this thing. It tells you in text to destroy it. It don't really tell you how. So but what I did first was I went over to it. I put my icon over it to see if interact will pop up. No interact popped up. I kicked it. Nothing happened. I hit it. Nothing happened. And so I thought to myself, I was like, well, how do you destroy these things? Because you're not going to think to hit it multiple times because there's no feedback when you hit it. There's not an audible sound. There's nothing that happens when you touch this thing. But you got to hit it 4 to 5 times before it finally breaks. And I didn't know that. And so that was a problem there. There was a bit of a disconnect, so to speak, right? Slight, small disconnect, right? So you continue on with the quest line. You take out the rest of the mortars and all of that, right? Okay, cool. Take out the mortars, take out the people. You go back. You then got to collect the grenades because Now that you've taken out the mortars, they can't send in no more grenades, so you then pick up the grenades so that you can then end all of the zombies aggro into this area. Cool. Now, here's the thing that happens, right? After you pick up all the grenades, Chimera pops up, right? Chimera comes in, you fight against Chimera. Now, I don't know about anybody else. My resources was low because I'm squabbling. Not only was I squabbling against soldiers, I'm squabbling against elite zombies because if I use my gun, they hear me, they come after me, I gotta fight them. And I'm not even going to get into the whole weapon wield fiasco of why that Techland decided to have both analog sticks operate on that weapon wheel, so you can't like quickly hot swap like how you would want to, where you will hold down the button, flick the right analog stick to the weapon that you want to quickly pull it out and then continue to go. Because if you're touching that left analog stick, that left analog stick has priority. So it's going to read the left analog stick instead of your right. Don't know why y'all did that. I think you're dumb for doing it. That's just me. But to continue on, I was fighting against a bunch of zombies, all of that, what have you. Then after you beat that Chimera, right, and your resources are depleted, you know what they decide to do? You can't just have one Chimera, boy, you need two. Boom. They summoned up 2 more Chimera for you to fight against. Now, the good part about it is the Chimeras, they hurt each other with certain attacks. Let's just say that. If it's a fist that they're throwing, they'll hurt each other with the attack. I think they hurt each other as well if they do the ram, but beware of the ram, because if it hits a wall and if they hit a surface and they keep moving, or let me not even say surface, let's just speak technically here. If they hit a collision object, they'll keep moving past that collision object if said collision object is in the wall. It doesn't matter if it's a static collision object. It just matters if the collision object is a wall. If it's not a wall, they'll keep moving towards you, and whatever force they had in that run, even after they went through their animation of hitting the wall, they'll still continue a little bit, and whatever force they had will still hit you, and it'll do a crap ton of damage to you. Just needed you to know that. So after all of that takes place, right, in that fight against 2, right, you get no indication that if you get 1.5, that Lydia is gonna then like try to take control of 1. You're fighting them. You're low on resources, or at least I was, and I'm doing all of this solo just to help give the perspective. You're fighting a good fight, right? You might lose one time. All right, cool. You know what happens when you lose? You don't get back your resources. No. You continue on as you was in that previous instance. Meaning that everything you used, it all counted. The only thing you have is your guns and your sword. That's it. Everything else continues. So as you're fighting, you get one of them down to half. You then get like a little Lydia hits your mind telepathically, and she'll tell you, hey, if you get one of them down, I'll take control of one of them. Why didn't you say that before I started this fight? That way I wouldn't have been scrambling and scraping, trying to figure out how I'm going to fight against 2 of these drinks. I could have been like, okay, if I focus hard on this one, boom. But you want me to tell you the crazy thing that happened on my fight, right? And this is why I say they had good ideas, just terrible execution, right? The one that I dropped wasn't even the one that Lydia took over. Lydia took over the full health one. Make it make sense. She took over the full health one and started beating up the one that was low health. So why? Why did you even tell me that you could have took over one as soon as the fight started? And in my mind, it was like an amalgamation of things just hit me all at once, and I snapped. I was just like, bro, you know what? I'm kind of good, but if I put the game down, I know I'm not going to play it again. And last, we're going to move on to the last subject, which is exploration. Now, I think this is what they did the best in this game, which is the exploration. From the things that you could find within the world to the different type of things that you could explore, such as dark zones or the convoys, or how you could get to different safe zones, the different aspects that they added into you being able to get in the safe zones. Like there was one that was attached to a power line that you could grapple hook to, and you could pretty much Spider-Man your way over there. Which reminds me, there was a mechanic that I forgot to talk about a little bit. I'm just briefly going to talk about it here. I don't know why they decided to have 3 tiers for the grappling hook when the first tier doesn't even have the pull mechanism to it, but when you first get it, it explains the pull mechanism to you. You don't really get the pull until you advance it to the second tier, and then you get an advanced pull when you advance it to the 3rd tier, which completely makes the grappling hook the best way to get around. Not a car, nothing else, just that grappling hook, because it's so fast. It's so fast and it's so accurate with the things that you need to do once you get into the advanced tier. Before that, the grappling hook is Bunziti, which in my mind makes me think that you should have never made it so that you advance it through tiers, because people are going to be deterred from using it if what their first impression of it is this thing is kind of yeeks. They ain't even going to think to upgrade it after that point, because like the first impression of it is going to be so souring. That's what I would say about that, right? So let's move back on to the exploration. The best part about the exploration was, for me, was like a lot of the different aspects of it. Like I remember that I had went all the way out into the boonies, and in the boonies there was like this little farm, or not this farm, but I guess you could call it a homestead or whatever. It was like this woman that was living there, but the bandits had raided it. They had raided it because she was growing her own vegetables and they wanted them for themselves. I thought that was pretty cool too. That was a nice little touch there as well. So you clap all the bandits, you can see what they did to her, like in front of her bed, and it's the apocalypse, bro. But with all that being said, I do think that this was like the best aspect of the game. Now, I do wish that the movement mechanics were better. I do think the options for movement were better. The slide didn't feel as good in this game as it did in 2 to me, in Dying Light 2. Even though I did beat it, I did play it a little bit. I put like about 10 hours into the game before I stopped playing it. But I do think that the movement could have been better, especially climbing. Climbing mechanics could have been better, especially for some of the aspects of exploration. But what I will say is, once you level up that grappling hook, it makes exploration the best aspect of this game, hands down. That coupled with like the little tidbits of information and the little different like micro objectives, not even sub, not even main, just micro objectives that you yourself could set for yourself. That's tough. It's it's good. It's not Hell Is Us good, but it's good. You know what I mean? Like I rock with it. I rock with it. And with that, I'll just say that I kind of regretted buying Dying Light the Beast. Like after I beat it that first day, I gave myself a little bit of time to like chill out, relax, you know, just get all the ickiness out and just think about like my time with the game. Like, did I enjoy myself more than I felt frustrated? And what I will say is I did enjoy myself more than I felt frustrated. I will say the latter half of the game kind of drags a little bit. But outside of that, like it's a good game. I would say if you could get this joint on sale, get it on sale, bro. It's worth it. It's worth it. If you could get it for like maybe 30, 40 bucks, it's heavily worth it. Now, I can't speak much on the multiplayer because I didn't play with anybody. From a single player perspective, it's solid. It's solid. I will also say there are a lot of game breaking bugs in it. I've had at least 4 main quests break on me at different points. I will also say that if you're someone like me that has uveitis, where it's difficult for you to pick up on like little small details, the HUD is very unfriendly, or just the UI in general is very unfriendly because it's very small and it's very difficult to be able to pick it up sometimes. I will say when I went back and I looked at my recordings, it was easier to see it than it was on my actual monitor. And I have like a 27-inch, it's a 27-inch, 240 hertz Samsung Odyssey. It's one of those monitors, like everything's baked into it. And it's a good monitor, but it's just things were either too dark or I just couldn't make them out. I just couldn't make out the details of it. But other than that, solid game. I wouldn't say I recommend it, but you know, see for yourself. That's what I will say. But if you enjoyed the game, let me know down in the comment section below. If you think that I'm wrong, let me know down in the comment section below. And until next time I catch y'all, deuces.